Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And this episode, you guys are going to be so empowered. I could just tell. I have an awesome guest for you today, Mo Salami. He is a high performance and results coach. Just in our prep, I was getting so stoked to hear more about his story, which of course I'm going to learn live time with you guys. But his energy, his presence, and his commitment to serving other people, I can tell is through the roof. So I'm super stoked. Mo, welcome to the show.
I'm a fan and I'm a guest all at the same time in the same body at once. It's amazing. Love the show and honored to be on today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so excited to ask you the first question, which we're just going to go straight into it. So you are a high performance coach, you're a results coach. And if I had to guess, being a coach myself, there's a reason that you're a coach. There's something either that happened that inspired you, or maybe you saw it in someone else and you're like, you know what, I need to tap into this character within myself to help someone else. Anyways, I don't know what your backstory is of why you're doing what you're doing, but I sure want to know. So tell us a little bit about how you got to this role of being passionate to be a high performance coach.
So I guess the turning point in my story, it started with a sign and seeing a sign. And before we get to the sign, I'll give this some context. So I'm from a family where the definition of success is education and specifically science degrees and lots of them. So I did that. I've got 3 different science degrees.
Nice.
And I got a great job, great career, moved to a great neighborhood, bought a great car. The challenge was my nice 6-figure salary meant I was working not very nice 16-hour days. I had no experiences, no free time, no me time. And that brings us nicely to the sign. So bear in mind, my definition of success is all things science. And I got to the pinnacle of that, right? So I see a sign and it says, how to be successful. And that how to be successful sign, it was an ad for a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Bear in mind, this was a decade and a half ago. And it piqued my curiosity. So I grabbed the book and sat down right there in the store and I started to read the book itself. And then eventually I read every single book recommended in the back of the Success Principles. The fork in the road I had was, do I go all in down this path of actual success? Or do I stick to my own path of apparent success that I was already on? If you don't take any risks, you don't get any rewards. So I went all in. I traveled all around the world, Europe, USA, Canada, Asia, to learn from whoever's the best in the world. And very soon I gained expertise in online business, sales and marketing, public speaking, and personal development. That's what happens when you try and say public speaking and personal development at the same time.
Yeah. No,
so I gained expertise. I gained expertise in those areas. And I even went to work for Tony Robbins. So I was part of Tony's team for the best part of a decade. And whilst I was there, I had the opportunity to add value as a mentor and as a coach for tons of people aiming to get to the next level, right? And also I did millions of dollars in sales whilst I was part of Team Tony. And a particular highlight that I'm a little bit proud of is I did $1 million of sales in 90 days as a one-off, but I did that. And what I realized in this journey is that apparent success is when somebody else decides for you what success means, whereas actual success includes fulfillment and the freedom to design your ideal lifestyle the exact way that you want it. And that's how I got here, looking to help other people determine whether they're having apparent success or actual success and do that switch.
Okay, this is going to be a conversation that I'm just going to geek out on because you are speaking my language 100%. But I think it's really important for the listeners to understand what you're saying is that there's the apparent success and then there's the success by your own design.
Right.
And I think that's important to unpack because a lot of the listeners on here are traditionally careered like you, like maybe they're in science or engineering or sales or whatever, but they're still like employed by, something in corporate America. We also do have a lot of business owners, but I think that success has been prescribed to us by society, like you were talking about. And would you be okay talking about that a little bit and how that prescription just doesn't work long term, or however you want to answer that question? But I would love to clue the audience in a little bit more on what that means.
Absolutely. So you want to know how that doesn't mesh for everyone, that pathway of success that have been prescribed.
Prescription is not a one size fits all. And that's why we feel so discontent. But this might be a new concept for somebody. So take it away, Mo. Tell us all about that.
I think it's to do with your story, because we all tend to have this pre-written story. It's written for us with a black pen or it's written with a blue pen. And that story goes, here's the life you're going to lead. Here's the person you're going to marry that probably lives across the street, right? In your small town. Here's the profession you're going to have. And if you don't have this one, you're going to have the other one. And it's written in this black pen or it's written in a blue pen. And that's it. And then when you do that pathway, you kind of feel successful, but what's really happening is you're actually stressful because you've got the success, but there's a fulfillment piece that's not there. The reality is this, and I'm going to lean into the mic to say this. You can decide and design your life the way that you want it using the exact pen that you want. It doesn't have to be a black pen. It doesn't have to be a blue pen. It can be a red pen. It can be a paintbrush or any other tool that you want to design your ideal lifestyle. So that's what I would say, that feeling that you might have that there's something else meant for me is probably because there's something else meant for you.
So I love all of that. And I have never heard successful. How do you say that? Can you say it again? Because that is freaking a mic drop.
Absolutely. The word is successful and it's a more original. Thank you. And what it means is that you feel successful. Everyone says you're successful. Everyone cheers you on and you get all the likes on social media, right? But you know within yourself that your ladder's a lot against the wrong wall. It should be on the wall over there. But maybe you're a bit concerned, is the word, to start again because you have all these qualifications, you're doing so well, you've climbed up so high in corporate, you're earning all this money, right? And having this hobby, becoming the painter, as it were, or the writer, as it were, just doesn't mesh. But within you, that's where your true success lies internally, and your true stress is external, because at the minute you're successful versus successful.
I love that. And you turn it into a book if you haven't. Like, that's fabulous. I'm like, that is like one of the coolest terms I think I've ever heard. So I'm really glad I asked you that question. And there's so much more to what you're saying too, is that, and why it's important to be a high performance coach, because I think a lot of people that are in that success and stress piece of life are high performers. They're driven, they have, like you have 3 degrees and all this stuff. Like, me too. And been in high performance sales my entire life. I'm in big tech. And, I think that what I see in high performers is that they're trying to make an impact and they're doing it through the path that they were prescribed or know how. But then somewhere in their career journey, like you said, they're like, whoa, wait a second. I feel super stressed out. I don't feel like any of this is fulfilling. And now they're like, what do I do? I'm making multiple 6 figures, or I'm making, 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures, somewhere in that like 100K to 1 million. And now they feel stuck. What would you say to a listener that's hearing this and being like, oh my God, that's me? You already talked about like picking up the pen or the paintbrush and creating their own story. But what would you say to a listener that is feeling inspired by this conversation?
So what I would say is this, to make a decision and make a decision as to what success looks like for you. And more importantly, what purpose-driven success looks like for you. Now, once you've made that decision, that is humongous. You're in the 2% percentile because most people, they vaguely know that they want something else and they sort of put it off till tomorrow, till next week, till next month. And then all of a sudden, bam, they're an octogenarian. They're 80 years old. So make that decision. Then the next step is to move in the direction of the results that you want before you can see the results that you want. Okay. And that speaks to improving your mindset and improving your skill set. Improving your mindset and improving your skill set in that new pathway that you want isn't an instantaneous thing. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a journey that, well, let's say it this way. Old success was see me in 20 years or 30 years, and I've now achieved the thing that I want, right? And I've achieved the expertise that I want. Whereas I'm saying point in the direction of the result that you want. Enjoy the journey of getting there as you improve because you're showing up on a regular basis. And also you'd enjoy the journey when you do arrive. But it's so important to always move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want. And having that sort of presupposition that at the end of that and during that journey comes expertise, which can lead you to design your ideal lifestyle the exact way that you want it.
Love that. And I think it's such a powerful message because even in my book writing, for an example, right? My last book hit USA Today bestseller, which I'm totally grateful for. Amazing. Like, I won a New York Times, but I'm a baby author and, like, maybe New York Times will come. But this is why I'm bringing up this example, because in my head, I've got a vision list here. I've got my vision board over there that has New York Times bestseller on it, right? I'm moving in that direction, but it takes one step at a time, you know? The first step was May 2020 of joining a book writing group because I'd never written a book before. You know, now I'm on my third book. I hit USA Today. If I stay on this journey, maybe another 5 or 10 years, I'll see that New York Times bestseller. But people like look at me and ask, like, how did you do that? And I said, I basically what you're saying, I set the goal and then I started taking steps in that direction. I had no freaking clue what the hell I was doing, but I knew it was the expression that I wanted. That's what my expression of success was, using my passions, my crafts, my uniquenesses that were within me that weren't being used in my corporate career, wanted to some stage time, so to speak, right? And so I just followed that feeling of passion and it led to one thing after another. So I don't know if you see that in your work when you're working with clients or if you'd like to speak to that, but let's talk about the role of passion in success.
So first of all, if you're listening to this, a round of applause to Becca for the existing bestseller and then the future bestseller to come. So that's really great because you've stepped into writing your book, you've got your book done and pointing in the direction of what you want. All of a sudden, you get to live that dream of living life in Technicolor. Remember the black pen? Remember the blue pen? That's life that's lived in black and white. And maybe there's not even sound like that, right? Whereas pointing in the direction of what you want, you get to make all these discoveries, live your life in Technicolor. There's music, there's writing there, and voila. And in terms of passion, passion is everything. You know, we're on this mission for success, and success has two parts missing. You have the skill set part. The other two parts that are so important are mindset is another piece that's super important. Another piece that is incredibly important is passion. I was prepping for this call, and one of the things I mentioned in the intro was that I have 3 degrees, and I do have 3, you guys, 3 college degrees, university degrees. And in my day to day, I don't even think about that. What comes up more often than not is I actually taught myself as an adult 4 languages. And what was the ingredient to do that? It wasn't a miracle. It was passion. So that passion piece needs to be there for when you point yourself in the direction of the result that you want. And I just want to say one other thing, because if you're listening to this, you're an aspirant. An aspirant is someone that aspires to greater things and wants to grow. And what a lot of aspirants tend to do or think is that to do what I want to do next, I need to be an expert. And to be an expert, that's going to take 10,000 hours, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I'm not going to do all that stuff. Well, I'm here to say that I think that's misunderstood, because expertise isn't this destination that you arrive at. Expertise is a journey that you do day by day, step by step, by showing up. And all of a sudden, when you get that expertise, you're in a position where you can achieve becoming that New York Times bestseller one time, then the second time, then another time, and then it's just what you do. So that's what I would say to that I get it. It's scary because your comfort zone is saying, don't do that. And then the other part of your brain is trying to get you focused in for success. And your comfort zone tends to win unless you really prioritize your mindset.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about the 3 pieces of, like, passion, mindset, and skill set, because it is a development of all 3. Like, passion can fuel you, and it does. It's an incredible gift, and then you have to have the mindset to, I call it, like, bear hugging uncomfortable, and not in, like, but in a good way. It's like, you know how you would bear hug a friend that you haven't seen in a long time? I like to invite people to bear hug uncomfortable because it will hug you back. There's a gift in pursuing the uncomfortable that, until I started going through my own major stretch assignments, as I call them, I had no idea how much it would change my life. I get teary thinking about it, but change me as a person. Right. I think I have become kinder, more compassionate, more understanding, more patient, which I did not have before. Like, being a high performer, I'm like, go, 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 go. But when you start to embark in the journey of the unknown, you realize so much more depth of what we're capable of human beings. And I think it just opens you up to, again, like all those characteristics that I was saying, like passion, and your mindset just gets stronger and you start to embrace failure as a learning tool instead of something to be scared of. You start embracing fear as something that's like, hey, that's going to be with me on my journey. Get in the back seat. Let's go. Anxiety that might be there too. Get in the back seat. Let's go. So I don't know if you want to comment on that. And if you don't, then I can ask another question. But the way you responded to me before made me think of all those things.
First of all, I love the phrase bear hug uncomfortable because now we get to high five uncertainty. It's absolutely correct. Obviously we've all heard about the comfort zone, and it's one of those tongue twisters where you almost need to get uncomfortable if you're comfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, you know that you're leaning towards comfort. So it's one of those where, really like leaning into being uncomfortable, bear hugging the bear, as it were, is the way forward ultimately. The more one tries to avoid to embrace comfort, the more uncomfortable it turns out. And the
Yeah.
more you embrace uncomfort, the more comfortable it becomes. Case in point, I mentioned about languages, and I'll make this quick because I can go off on one when it goes to languages, but I speak 5 of them, and one of them that I speak is Spanish. And it's one of those where you can't speak it until the day that you can speak it. And then when you can speak it, when you can't speak it, it just seems so fast. Spanish speakers speak so fast, right? Is that really true, given that we listen 4 times faster than anyone could ever speak? So it's not that they're speaking too fast. You're probably listening too slow. You get to a point where you can't speak it until you can speak it, and then you become fluent, and then it feels like I was speaking this the whole time. Then you realize that Spanish is divided into 27 different types of ways to speak Spanish, right? Cuba, Mexico, the USA, Spain itself, they're all different types of ways. And then you sort of lean into speaking all of those. I can speak all of those, by the way. And then it all starts from really leaning into being uncomfortable, being happy saying the wrong word and having like a Spanglish accent, so to speak. All of a sudden, that uncomfort becomes comfort. And you get to hug the bear and all the other animals in the forest, as it were.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. It was such a great summary. And on that note, I want to ask you next, like, what is a big lesson or aha that's up for you right now? I think we've shared like lots of like lessons and epiphanies with the listeners, but I always like to ask the question directly.
That's the big aha is a repetition, which is this really really decide what it is that you want and really step into the direction of what you want, move in the direction of the results you want before you see the results you want. And when you do that, your comfort zone won't like it. And especially because you have to constantly perform, you have to constantly tap into the maximum version of yourself, the version of you that won that tennis tournament or had that great result in corporate, for example. You have to tap into that constantly because you're always required to perform under the cloud of uncertainty. So what I'd like to share, if I may, is a
That's great.
3-step process to tap into your maximum resources at any time when it's that moment to perform.
Yeah, let's go. I love practical, but let's go.
So I hope you have a pen, black pen, blue pen, crayon, whichever one you have for this. So the 3-step reset ritual. So step number, and this is very quick. This is something that once you internalize it, it's something that you can just tap into in 60 seconds or do for 60 seconds before that performance or that sales call or that keynote or stepping up to whatever it is that you're doing next and you want to tap into your greatest resources. So step number 1 is to breathe. So literally breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds and hold for 2 seconds, then breathe out through your mouth for 4 seconds. So 4 seconds breathe in, 2 seconds hold, and 4 seconds breathe out. So that's 10 seconds in total. So that's step number 1, to breathe. And when you do that, you really calm the mind and tap into the parts of your nervous system. So now you're not nervous, as it were. Step number 2 is to believe. En français, they say, je crois, really believe. And that is to say to yourself, by the way, I did well in that tennis tournament when I was X years old, or I did so well in corporate with this result. Is that everyone has that result that they're so proud of? I've achieved things before. I can also achieve this. Like really activate that belief system and do that positive self-talk. And that will take just 20 seconds in total. And that really activates the part of your brain that taps into self-belief. The third part is to become and tap into that high performance that you want. Really step into that and visualize yourself in that moment, performing at the level that you want. how you want it to go and imagine that it goes perfectly and do that for 30 seconds. And what that does is it quietens the noise and helps you really focus in on that performance that you want to do now. So those 3 steps were to breathe, to believe, and then to become. And that's an exercise that you can do, and it takes 60 seconds. And the premise is that you're tapping into your maximum potential just at a moment's notice.
Love that. I love that it's 60 seconds. I love that it's so easy. Breathe, believe, become. Those are all words that I love. And I was practicing it as you were teaching it. And I felt my own nervous system relax and start to tap into that part. So I really hope that the listeners took note. Guys, I hope you implement what Mo was just sharing, because I did it lifetime and I feel it in my nervous system. And I know from my own work that in what I teach too, is that all three of those are very necessary. You need to regulate your nervous system, state before strategy. You got to set that with your breath. You got to get into the belief. At the end of the day, we're going to get the outcomes we believe. And they're either going to be based in our fear or in our faith. And why not? If they're going to be one or the other, you might as well choose to believe in yourself, right? If you got to choose. And then that becoming that embodiment of really taking a few moments to bring in that version of yourself that you're wanting to be, your nervous system. I'm glad you brought the nervous system because I'm kind of a nerd too. I love the nervous system. But the more you embody it, the more you envision it, the more your nervous system wires to believe it. And then if you practice the 3 steps that Mo just shared, listeners, that's you're programming yourself at the end of the day.
One of my 3 science degrees is actually pharmacology. So I've actually drawn out parts of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic, but I won't nerd out right now. The passion piece, again, is so, so, so important because it's possible to be successful but not enjoy the journey. And then not only do you not enjoy the journey, you lose all these people along the way, right? Because you're too busy and it's go, 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 go 24/7. Then you get to the end of the journey and you're successful, but it's actually stressful, and you've just wasted 2, 3, 4 even decades. So the premise is move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want, but on that journey to really enjoy the journey, embrace the mistakes, enjoy hugging the bears and all those other great things. And the passion piece makes it so worth it and so enjoyable. And at the end of it, you get to have the New York Times bestseller, but
Yeah, my
every
heart
single
flutters
day
when you
you were
say that. I'm like, one
best-selling
day,
because you had
Mo.
the passion as you were writing and just really imagining those people getting tons of value from your material, from your writing.
Yeah, it's cool to be in your passion and then also be serving people, which is where I want to move into next. We only have about 5 minutes left, but I know when we started the pre-interview, you had mentioned that, part of your calling is to serve people. So let's talk about when you do get on the success journey that is mapped to the true you, how that ends up in service.
So for myself personally or just in general?
No, just for yourself personally, if you can spin it to the listeners too, that'd be great.
I want to make sure just repeat that one more time. Sorry, the original question. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to once you tap into what I'm calling the true success path, the true you success path, right? How does that end up being of service? Like you're in this position now of being a high performance coach. Sure, does it give you income? Absolutely. But I have a feeling you're in it for the impact. So I think that as I've seen in this journey, that we start chasing our passions and this thing that we want to do, but it ends up being how we service and how we make an impact. So I just wanted to talk to you about that and how that's shown up in your own life and how it might show up in your clients. But
Right. How it shows up is that passion stacks on top of process. So you have the processes, here's how you do it, here's how you become, here's how you become, as it were. But because passion is stacked on top of it, all of a sudden you're tapping into all your different senses because you want it just so bad. That passion piece means that you're using every single sense that you have, all 5 of them, to really serve the other person. And of course, the service piece leads to the revenue, all that great stuff. Great. But even beyond that, even beyond the people that are in your pathway, even if you're not someone who influences others, you are influencing minimum 8 to 10 people every single day. The person you meet in the store every day, a nephew, a niece, a child, a sibling, a friend, There are 8 people that look on you as their mentor. This is for all of us. So that higher state that you're in all the time, you impact people just by the example that you're leading, the way that you lead in your life, the way that you're impacting other people beyond even the testimonials and the case studies. There's just a higher vibration. That was the word I was looking for, that
Wow.
you move into, that you only really discover when you step into uncomfortably the version of you that you want to become before you've become it. And it's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful, uncomfortable feeling until that uncomfortable feeling becomes your brand new comfort zone. So you know that you're really living if you feel uncomfortable. If you're just about to step on stage and, by the way, behind the curtain is 10,000 people sat there waiting for you to speak, or you're just about to make a sales call. I had a situation where I was trying to get to $1 million for the quarter, and I had to do $80,000 of sales the next 48 hours to make the target. You get yourself into all these different, speaking in French in France to a French speaking audience from the stage. By the way, it's kind of my first language now. I'm so fluent at it, but it's not literally not my first language. And if you can have these moments and stack these moments of just uncomfort being your brand new comfort, you're really, really living. And if you have that feeling that you're really on purpose, there's nothing like it. Not the revenue, not the accolades, not the likes on social media, so to speak. It's just a whole different vibration. And because communication is only 8% verbal, your vibration itself is the other 92% that draws people towards you because they're wondering, which bear has this person been hugging? What's been going on? And that's what I would say.
Well, that was so beautifully and well articulated. Just like my heart center feels like so open right now. That was beautiful. And I hope for the listeners too. I would even rewind this and just listen to that answer again because it is filled with so much truth with a capital T. And I think one of the things that I just want to reinforce for the listeners, it's a counterintuitive thing that you were alluding to and discussing in that answer. But some of your greatest riches come from when you are on purpose, meaning that when I got on purpose, I started making more money. I didn't have to try to make more money. It was a result of me being on purpose. My relationships got deeper and more connected as a result of me being on purpose. And so there's this thing, you try so hard to make the money and you work and you're stressed and you're working 16 hours a day. And then somehow you get on purpose and you're doing everything that you've articulated in this interview. And you're not even thinking about income anymore. I mean, you might be building a business and yes, you have revenue goals, but all of a sudden you have this miracle, quote unquote, miracle happen and you quadruple your income and you're like, holy. And that's what I want the listeners to take away is that life really does get almost miraculous on the other side of this alignment. And I know we're at 33 minutes, so we're 3 minutes over, but I want to ask you one more question before we wrap up. And that is, how can embracing this approach to life empower the listener?
The reason you've quadrupled your income is you've probably 40x the value that you've put out there for yourself, for those around you, for those that you don't know. And the way that I want this to empower you is this. There was a study by Cornell University, and it was a study into the science of regret. And what they found was that when people listed regrets in life, 79% of the people, they listed regrets of things that they hadn't attempted. They just literally hadn't taken action, hadn't gone for it, hadn't pointed in the direction of the result they wanted before they saw the result they wanted. And I hope this empowers you because there's nothing worse than wondering what if, and at the minute you have the opportunity to completely go for it. But there comes a moment when the time runs out. We think we have forever, right? But there comes a moment when the time runs out. And now all you can do is now advise the next generation, perhaps. So the worst that can happen is you can find out if you got the New York Times bestseller, as so to speak, you got multiple New York Times bestsellers or whatever your version of that is for yourself, so to really just embrace hugging the bear. I love that phrase so much. Embrace hugging that bear and just really going for your version of what purpose-driven success means for yourself and just really go for it. I just want to, if you have a pen, write this down. You can curate the life that you want to create. You can curate the life that you want to create. And that goes for absolutely everyone. You're talented enough.
Yeah, that is the perfect spot to end the interview because so powerful and so true. Mo, thank you for coming on the Empowered Half Hour and sharing all your wisdom with us. It was a great interview. I'm just so thrilled to have you as a guest.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Loved being on the show, and I hope anyone listening got value from it. That was the intention. And thank you so much.
And was so excited. I almost forgot. Can you share with the audience? Because I'm sure they're going to want to follow you. We'll have all of that information in the show notes too. But how can the audience stay in touch with you?
So I got so excited, I almost forgot as well. So go to mosalami.com/free call, mosalami.com/free call. And that's to schedule a call with my team. And if you found some value in this call, perhaps I can help in terms of high performance coaching. We have an entire pathway to take you from inaction all the way through expertise, whether it's your skill set, your mindset, or a combination of both. And for sure, it's a passion-filled journey along the way in terms of your success that you're looking to seek.
That's awesome. You hear that, guys? Go book your free call with Mo. I'm sure it'll change your life because you just seem like that guy. So I encourage everyone to do so. Thank you again, Mo.
Thank you so much, Becca. Have an amazing rest of today.